I'm just going to start that again because there was all kinds of stuff. It's afternoon in Punjab, am I right? Jasnami, perfect.
Yes.
So we have most time zones represented here, and that is because we do once a month. We have a wonderful program that brings storytellers from, it's not exclusively, but it means there's yeah, and could you please put your hands together and welcome Karan Shah.
Thank you, everyone. I didn't come quite prepared. I was just wanting to sit back and listen. But then when one gets an opportunity, one seizes it. I'm deviating today with a story not from my Indian heritage or my Singapore upbringing, nor from my residency. Today, I'm going to tell you a story from Leo Tolstoy's, one of his books that I read. So let's give it a go. It's been a long time since I told the story. Gregory Petrovich looked at his land in total despair. He had no money to buy grain to sow his crops because the harvest had been so bad. What was he to do? The only alternative was to go to the landlord and ask for some money. And so off he went, carrying a plate of cooked goose. Landlord's house, and the family was just sitting down to dinner. The landlord at the head, his wife at his opposite end, and his two sons on one side and two daughters on the other. Ah, Gregory Petrovich, what have you brought? A plate of goose, sir. I have come to offer this to you. No, I will give you the money if you can share this goose fairly. Well, Gregory Petrovich was a clever man, and he said, well, you are the head of the family, the earth, the land that you have. Well, they need strong legs, so they should have the two legs. And your daughters, in time, they will get married, and to them, they will each have a wing to fly away. And as for myself, I will keep the rest. The landlord hissed, "Oh, you are a smart man. Here is a bag of coins." And Gregory Petrovich went home and he was happy. And news went around, and Gregory Petrovich had a neighbor, Ivan Ivanovich, and he thought, well, I should do the same. But he thought he would outdo his neighbor, and he went with 5 cooked geese. And as he presented it to the landlord, he was welcomed. But this time, the landlord said, "Now, how can you divide this equally?" Well, Ivan Ivanovich had not a clue. And so the landlord sent for Gregory Petrovich, and Gregory came. 5 geese to be divided. Your 2 boys. If I add 1 goose, that makes 3. And same with your 2 daughters. 1 goose, that makes 3. And I will take the remaining 2 geese. And that is an equal distribution, is it not? And thus ends my story of the geese.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
Karan, if that's what you do when you're not prepared.
I really was not prepared because
that was
tell a story.
That was a fantastic telling, and I dropped you in it. Welcome, Kamea. So we're now going from Australia. We'll get on Ali's magic carpet, and we're going to fly off to Punjab. And Yasname, are you prepared? I mean, you said you wanted 2 minutes. Have you had your 2 minutes? Are you ready to tell us a story?
Yes, I'm ready.
Well, please tell.
So, hello everyone.
You're muted, Yasname.
Now can you hear me? So, hello everyone. My name is Jasnami. I'm from India and I study in class 6. So today I'm going to tell you the story of Foolish Bear. And you must have heard many versions of this story. So the story begins. A farmer went to the forest to find a nice place to plant his potatoes. So when he found a perfect place, and there across, a bear was roaming in that same place. So now, while the man was about to plant his potatoes, bear came running and said, "Hey, you man, I'm gonna eat you up. You are so delicious, and your bones will be my toys." And then the man said, "Oh, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Whatever you will say, I'll give to you. And I think I have an idea. If you help me to plant this potato, we can share the crop," said the man. The bear was waiting for that movement. Remember our deal? Said the man. I get the tops, said the bear, not knowing that potato grew down. So, of course, I know. So, when the farmer digged the ground and took potatoes, he said, I think the down parts were mine, the roots were mine. All the roots, all the potatoes, and all that top part was left to this foolish bear. And when the bear tried that part, he said, Yuck, too, it's so bad. And can you give me one part of yours? I won't eat it. And then he said, Yes, I can give. So he handed over a potato to that bear. Then the bear said, It's so yummy, you did cheating with me. This is not fair. And then the bear was very angry and said, I will crush you. I will eat you up if you come here next time. This time I'm leaving you, but not next time. Remember my words. So the man went quietly. And now the man sold the potatoes in the market and had lot of money. Months passed by and the man thought, that small foolish bear doesn't remember me. So I can go and plant a flower over there and I will get much money if I sell it in the market. So he went there and there the bear came. He could smell that man and said, I told you not to come this way again, but you still came. I will kill you now, cried the bear. Thinking fast, wanted. So this time flowers and the man went on his way. When the plants had grown to beautiful flowers and blooming, the farmer returned. The bear was waiting for his yummy, delicious roots. So the man asked again, Do you remember what was our deal? And the bear shouted, Yes, I remember. That delicious roots were mine and the useless top were yours. So he dug up the plant carefully and loaded his cart with pretty colorful flowers, that dirty roots, and gave it to this foolish bear. And the bear chewed on the roots and said, What? These are just horrible. With a growl of anger, he turned on the man. But till then, that man had escaped. Cheated again, thought that angry bear. But the man was selling these beautiful flowers there. And after this thing, the farmers and the bear were sworn enemies. Thank you.
That was amazing. And I think it is the wonderful thing of storytelling and stories. They travel the world and they change as they travel. That story appears in almost every country and it goes in its own way. And in Tuesday is our young tellers, and they're celebrating the International Nami, you have just illustrated that perfectly. Thank you very much. Now,
the actor is that doing?
sorry, David, missed that.
How is that doing?
How old?
No. How do listen
How do you listen?
that doing?
Where did you get that story from? Yeah, Jasnami, where did you get that story from?
I have this book I told you before, so it's a story here. Animal Tales. It says Animal Tales.
And who wrote it?
Author's name is not given, so this is a book Indian, which has Indian stories, so it has an index like this.
Fantastic.
Leaps away. And then they have the same deal. You take the top, I'll take the bottom, and Clever Rabbit, gets it to his advantage. So it was lovely to listen to your version.
That's
I
right.
think
Like,
that's a Southwestern tale here in the States.
yeah, and like John said, I think there's versions in just about every culture. Because the
Yes.
version I tell is a Filipino version with the monkey and the turtle. So there's just versions of that
yes.
story everywhere, aren't there, John?
And the UK version is, a small evil creature. And it has a third, and the end of it is having done the tops and bottoms, he won't be fooled a third time, so he wants half. Keeps just going blunt. And in the end, the plot boggart just goes off in a bad temper and leaves him the land.
That's interesting, John, because the third thing in my version that I haven't told for a long time, so thank you for reminding me of the story just now, a bit smart, and says, well, I'll take the top and I'll take the bottoms. And the rabbit grows corn, which grows in the middle.
Fantastic. Jasnami, thank you for getting for giving us such a great conversation piece.
Yes.
So the order, before we forget it, is Ansuk. Babasi, do you want to tell a story today? Of course you do. Now that's a stupid question. Kamar's going to tell us from Nepal. Is going to tell us a poem. So we've got a poem from Nepal. Then we'll go Sui Yen in Singapore. Welcome to you. And then we'll just see who else joins us in the
John
meeting.
That was not a stupid question. It was a rhetorical question.
Further ado, and thank you for stimulating that fantastic conversation. Let us go across to Korea and sweet Ansuk, please tell us a story.
Okay. So, Kiran, thank you so much. Every time I listen to your story, every word so clearly just come through to my ears, and I word and sentence and so. Every time you just seem to tell better and better, more naturally. I really admire you. Thank you so much. And Today I will tell you a Korean folk tale, a tiger and a 꽃감. So at the end of this story, you can guess what is 꽃감. Okay, I will not translate in the story in English about the 꽃감. Okay, let me tell you the story. Once is the king of the forest, and nobody can dare, just come to him or do anything. One cold winter day, this tiger was very hungry, so he crept out of his cave to look for some food, but he couldn't. The mountain was covered with deep white snow, so he roamed around the forest. Then he reached at the edge of a village, and it was dark, so he crept into a cottage. Then he saw a fat cow sleeping in a barn near the gate. His mouth was watering. Beef. Then he heard a baby's crying. The sound was very loud inside the house. Then he heard mothers singing lullaby. 자장 자장 우리 아가 잘도 잔다 우리 아기 마라 우리 아기. But the tiger's eyes popped out. How did she know I am here? Just then, when the baby was crying and crying, the mother said, "Hush, stop. If you don't stop, then the tiger will come and get you." Tiger. What a piece of love, a baby. But the baby was crying and crying even louder. So this made the proud tiger angry. What kind of baby is this? He's not afraid of me. I will show who I am. And he came closer to the room. Just then, the mother said, "Yetta, 꽃감이다." Then immediately the baby stopped crying. But this made the tiger really frightened. What is 꽃감? 꽃감? Maybe it is very strong and big beast. Must be much stronger and much scarier than me. I should better forget the baby and go get the cow. So quickly the tiger walked back to the barn. And he just and led the tiger out of the barn. The tiger was so frightened, he had no time to look back. And the tiger ran. This must be the Kokam beast. Now I'm dead. And the tiger just jumped up and down to try to throw this up from his back. But actually, it was a cow thief. Inside the barn was very dark, and cow thief was too hasty. He made a terrible mistake. He thought the tiger as a cow. So at first he didn't know what happened. So when the tiger jumped up and down, he thought, oh, what's wrong with this cow? And he looked down and he just touched the fur of tiger. Then he realized he was on the tiger's back. So now he thought, oh, I'm dead. If I fall down, the tiger will gobble me up. So he grabbed hold of the tiger tightly. Then with his two legs, he just squeezed on either side of the tiger. But the tiger tried to throw this Kokam beast up from his back. The tiger ran and up and down and ran around in circles. The forest. Pine tree. The cow thief grabbed hold of a branch just hanging down. He grabbed hold of the branch and quickly climbed up the tree and let the tiger go. Whew. He said, now I'm alive. I can't believe and the tiger, at first, he didn't know the cow thief was gone. So soon he felt his back lighter. So he stopped and looked back and he saw there's nothing. So he said to himself, oh, now I'm alive. What a terrible Kokam beast. And the tiger ran into the forest and the cow beast went to another village and both never came back to the village again. And every night the mother sang the lullaby. 짜잔. So now you know what is gokgam. In Korean, gokgam is dried persimmon. Old days, it was very tasty winter treat. So soft and sweet, and every child and even old people loved gokgam, dried persimmon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. All right, in the interest of reducing our carbon footprint, I have changed the order so the magic carpet only has to go from Korea to Singapore. So we are now changing the order. So we're going to Singapore to Sweden. Please tell us a story.
Thank you. I apologize for changing the order because of last minute arrangements. Thank you, Babasi. And thank you, Ansel, for that story. I always find that I promised them that I would continue telling their stories. So this is another one that they have created. The last time when I did the World Storytelling Cafe here, that was last month, because it was on left on the it was live streamed. So they watched it in class, and I remember all of you were waving to them. So they waved back, and the teachers actually filmed them waving to as if it was live. So it was wonderful. Would you like to do that again? Because they really were very excited, very happy to have their stories told on this platform. And for sure, they will watch this again. So I want to dedicate it to the 3 teachers who made it possible, because they really encouraged the students. We didn't have many sessions. And so after I would attend the session and have a time, behind the scenes, the 3 teachers worked to help the students. And they are Wei Ting, Mimi, and Vincent. So I want to dedicate this to them. Okay, so this story is another group story. And they came up with this story about the girl by the name of Miran. Miran from Korea. Hold on. Let me turn it off. Okay.
I think your son is getting really hungry.
He has some ways to travel back. Okay.
Sons are
All right.
wonderful. And so are daughters, but I have sons.
Anyway, okay. Miran came to Singapore, start learning English in Singapore. The first few months, she was very lonely. She didn't have any friends. She learned some English, but it wasn't enough to make friends. Often she would walk around the neighborhood. Now she lived in a small little apartment because that's what she could afford. She liked to walk around the streets to see all the big houses. And one day, out of one of the houses was smoke, thick smoke coming out. Oh, it looked scary. And then she heard crying and called for help. And they were children's voices. Sounded like a boy and a girl. She looked at the house. She wondered whether she should run into the house to see what was going on. Louder and louder, children's crying. She had to go and see. So she went into the house, tried to open the door. It couldn't open. She tried one of the windows and it was open. She climbed into the window, and as soon as she got in, she felt the heat of the room. Oh, it was so hot. It's like putting your hand on a frying pan. Oh, she didn't want to stay there. But then the crying was louder. She looked around, but the smoke was around herself. She found the children. 2 small, 1 boy, 1 girl. They were hugging each other and crying, "Help, help." So Miran, she took whatever thing she could find. A piece of cloth, a tablecloth. She put it around the children and slowly walked them out of the house. By then, the firemen had come, and they were very quick to put out the fire. The parents of the children also came. Now she was trying to make out what the children were saying with her limited eyes, what the boy was telling the mother. You see, the girl was hungry, the little girl, sister was hungry, and the big brother wanted to cook something on the stove. He had seen people using matchsticks to light the stove, and so he tried it himself. He had the pan with the oil and the matchstick, trying to light it, but then the matchstick was burning his fingers. And that's when he threw the matchstick into the oil. Oh, the fire became bigger and he was so scared. Well, the boy learned his lesson. That day was quite an unusual day for Miran. She looked at herself all dirty, not so good looking, but she made new friends. From then, that time onwards, the two children and the family became her friends. And that's the story of Miran.
Thank you, Suya. Thank you to your students.
Yeah, your students are awesome. They are fantastic. I love the stories they bring us. We look forward to next month. Where we
And then to illustrate the story, they actually took each one had a different task of finding pictures to illustrate. But of course, it's all copyrighted pictures from the internet. But the idea was they were very creative, and through the pictures, I saw, what they were actually.
see next, and we're going to have Khmer. I think I'm going to do, you will be gone, but I'm going to do a, because if your students watch this program, I'm going to do a poem I wrote, and I will talk about how it was written, so your students can watch that, maybe, if you would like that, Suya.
Yes, I'll tell them. Thank you for this opportunity.
Enjoy your dinner. So another round of applause, Suya, before she goes.
And tell your son how lucky he is to have you for a mother.
Thank you.
Korean brave girl Miran. This is story.
Yes. Hey, we love everything Korean.
Yeah.
What's the reason? It's Korean every time.
Fantastic. Now,
Bye.
we will, before we go to Nepal, we're going to go to Washington, D.C. Or Babasi. As Taffy Thomas said, if talking was more important than listening, we'd be given 2 mouths and 1 ear. So there's
Tell that to a politician.
Right, Baba C.
Right.
I'm going to stop wittering on, and I'm going to let you witter on. Baba C, have you got a story for us?
Yes, actually, one in May and several of the other princesses, and also in connection with stories being worldwide, how it can start in one culture and spread to other cultures. And so I'm going to tell a kind of amalgamated version of story about how the zebra got its stripes. Now, you see, once upon a time, the zebra was the fastest animal in the world. It was faster than every other creature. It was faster than the lion. It was faster than the jaguar. It was faster than the cheetah. Although why they call it a cheetah when it doesn't cheat, I don't know. But it was the fastest animal in the world. But his best friend in the world, turtles are very slow. Now, this turtle was huge, humongous. It was a great big turtle, but it was still slow. And the cheetah thought that since the turtle was slow in body, he had to be slow in mind. And the cheetah did not understand why the zebra was best friend was such a slow animal turtle all the time. He said, cheetah, cheetah. He would say, zebra, I don't understand. Why do you hang around the slow, stupid turtle? The zebra said, he's my best friend. He might be slow, but he's not stupid. Yeah, well, I think he's stupid. Look at him. He can barely walk. And you're the fastest animal around. You should be hanging out with me, not with some dumb turtle. Well, the monkey was up in the tree listening to all this. And when the cheetah had walked off, the monkey came out of the tree and landed on top of the turtle and said, nice, it's not smart, it's not polite. I know you're physically slow, but you don't have to put up with that foolishness. Let me show you how crafty I can be. And so the monkey went back up the trees and he swung and he swung and he swung. Hey, David, that made him a swinger, but that's another story. And he swung and he swung and he swung. And he hung from the tree looking at the animal, looking at the kid and says, I hear you think you're so crafty. Come down here and say that to my face. Well, I thought maybe you and I could play a game together. We can play a game. And then the cheetah thought to himself, and then I'm going to have lunch. He said, I thought we played the binding game. Oh, the binding game? The binding game? What's the binding game? Magnificent game, you'll love it. You see, I'm going to take some of these vines and we can take turns. I'll bind you by your foot, throw the vines over the branches and swing you back and forth and forth and back and back and forth and forth and back. Oh, it's a wonderful game. You'll love it. Okay, but I'll go first because when I bind you, the cheetah thought, I'm going to have lunch. And so the monkey came down and tied the cheetah by the foot. This is so much fun. I love this. This is fun. It's fun. All right, let me down because now it's my turn to bind you. And the monkey said, nah, I don't think so. I'm going to get me some bananas. And left him hanging in the tree. Now the cheetah was not happy about this and he roared. Cheetahs don't really roar, but he roared and he made such a fuss that all the other animals in the area, they went someplace else. And the turtle was moving slowly to find out what all the noise. And the zebra was going because he's the fastest animal in the world. The zebra was so fast, his shadow could not keep up with him. And so the zebra said, I just got back. The monkey tied the cheetah up in a tree. I guess he played the binding game. And the turtle said, well, it serves him right. You're always making fun of me. Just because I'm slow in body doesn't mean I'm slow in mind. But we
don't even want to think about that. It's far too early. And you managed to actually, you've been up for 1,000 hours and your brain is still working. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
In theory.
I'd hate to think what you're like at your peak. Now we're going straight across to Nepal, to Kamaya. Welcome, Kamaya. We haven't seen you for some weeks. How are things in Nepal?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimaya from Nepal, and thank you to everyone who be perfect to share. So here it goes. Blackberries were the farthest thing I could see. Blackberries either side overwhelmed me. Start picking, said Pa, and soon my hands were indigo. Only 6 more colors left to be a rainbow. One of them, oh, the bag was full. Home we go, thinking about an excuse for my stained shirt. Who will tell Ma? Yeah, thank you.
John, can I just say something? Kimaya created that poem just in the last few hours in response. Tammy wrote that she wrote when she was 6 years old, called Blackberrying, and also in response to the beautiful poem Blackberrying by Seamus Heaney. And that's the inspiration. And Kimaya then came up with her own beautiful poem about blackberrying. So thank you very much, Kimaya. Well done again for your wonderful creativity.
That was fabulous, and I'm so glad to see you. I was going to write to you, so this is even better.
Ah, wonderful.
John, am I unmuted? Yes, good. Hi, everybody. Hi,
Yeah,
Karan.
so Sweeyan told us a wonderful story. She's had to go, unfortunately, Rona, but told us a wonderful story created by her students. So this is for her students as a poem. But when I was writing it, I wanted to write a poem about a ghost, and and then I got stuck. I wanted the ghost to get into trouble, and the main character from the poem, to get the ghost out of trouble. And and I'd half written it when I was going to a school, so I asked the children for their ideas, and they got me thinking, and I dug into the memory cells, and I dug into my Fanny Fanshawe handbag. Now that may sound strange, but Fanny Fanshawe was I used to work at the Arts Centre in Colchester, and we did exhibitions, and she made mosaics, and she lived in sheltered housing just round the corner. So I used to carry her pictures home to her little flat, and she'd sit me down and give me cups of tea in the best china, and I was terrified of chipping it, and because old people give you the best china, and I'm really awkward. And but she'd say, John, the trick to make and you see something on the floor that might be useful, you pick it up and you pop it in your handbag. For instance, she was a grand Victorian woman with big hats and a silver top cane. For instance, I was walking down Colchester High Street and I saw a piece of broken watch in the gutter. So I bent down and I picked it up and I popped it in my handbag. And I had this vision of this grand Victorian woman bending down, picking up bits of broken watch from the gutter. And he said, and when I got home, I put it in that dish. And she had a dish full of bits and pieces, you know, like men have tins full of nuts and bolts in their sheds. And he said, 5 years later, I was making that mosaic and it had over there and it had a bit of a gap. And I thought, I know what would be perfect. That piece of broken watch. And I popped it in and it was perfect. And I looked at it and it was perfect. So ever since then, I think of my head as Fanny Fanshaw's handbag that I drop memories in that might be useful in my writing later. So there's this particular one, and I was trying to think of how the ghost got in trouble, and I remembered that I was walking down just outside Colchester at midnight, and it was full. And I looked along 20 feet up in the air. I'm thinking, are they going to get to the other side? If they fall, I'm not going to be able to do anything because my first aid is really bad. Fortunately, they got to the other side. So this is what inspired this poem. He seemed a very average ghost, the kind you see straight through, created for a DVD, too perfect to be true. His hair was long, his boots were tall, the buckles shone on his belt. His jacket was made from satin and his plumed hat pressed from felt. His spurs and sword, they clattered as he insults from the people that you'd meet. Get out of the way, you fool. They said, where did you get that hat? And why don't you get your hair cut? And just look at the ghost getting jostled. On the other hand, Rosie in tears, pushing past giants in her night clothes, and her being only 10 years, she pushed past the ones who were laughing. She pushed past the ones who looked mean. She pushed her way through till she stood at the last place the ghost had been seen. And then she thought that she glimpsed him inside the old shipyard wall that hadn't been used in her lifetime. Below her was metal and rubble and a reinforced concrete post, and the crowd all thought she'd had it. But Rosie remembered the ghost, and the ghost knew all about Rosie, how she didn't have one real friend, and the person to blame for her falling was really himself in the end. So he ran through the piles of paving, and he ran through the last standing wall. He stood with his arms stretching outwards, exactly where Rosie would fall, and he caught her like she was a feather. And he set her gently down. Now, everyone wants to know Rosie, and the ghost is the ghost of the town. So
Yes, I do, John. Thank you. It's great to see you all. I got some good news from the hospital yesterday, which is why I'm back out here. Because every single day for the beige man, whose name was Roger, was exactly the same. When he got out of bed in the morning, he dressed himself in his beige socks and his white Y-fronts. Sorry, ladies, they're not at all exciting. And his beige shirt, his beige suit. He had the same suit for something like 40 years, not the actual same suit, but every time it needed to be replaced, it was him, as was the shirt. His shoes, he wore the same shoes for 40 years. Different pairs again as he wore them out. His day would start equivalent. She was beige woman, except she wasn't just so beige in the clothes department. She had one or two colourful garments, but only one or two, mind you. But their day was meticulously set out and ran to a pattern. She made his lunch for him and he had the same lunch every single day. 2 sandwiches, one was cheese, and each of them would be made with 2 slices of bread with the contents in between and then cut into 4. And these 8 little sandwiches would be put in his lunchbox along with a small bottle of water, but enough. She used to keep that water in the fridge all night so that it would still be cold when he was eating his lunch. Lunch. Same place every day, regardless of the weather. Sometimes he had to use his umbrella, which made it quite difficult to eat lunch. But there was no deviation. He went to the park. He worked as a bean counter. Now, you're not surprised there, are you? His job entailed something that was very boring as well. He would leave his office at exactly 12 o'clock every day. And you know something else this man could do? And this, my brother could do this, and it used to drive me crazy, my oldest brother. He would say, oh, it must be 12 o'clock. And he would look at his watch and it would be 12 o'clock. Or he would say, oh, it must be about 3:30. And he would look at his watch and it would be 3:30. They had created this lovely little area. And Roger sat on the same bench every single day in the same place. And he opened his lunchbox and he would eat his sandwiches, just sitting there gazing around every single day. He never ate all 8 of those sandwiches. He always left one in the lunchbox, just in case he would be hungry in the afternoon. It never happened all night. And as he got to his front door before he went in, he would open his briefcase, take out his lunchbox, open it, take out that last sandwich, pick it up and throw it for the birds every single day. Today, something happened. It was quite incredible. He sat there contemplating the seventh sandwich, picked it up and put it in his mouth, and something caught his eye at the side on a bush, a big, beautiful, green, luscious bush. There was a chrysalis there, a cocoon, and it was moving. Obviously, the little guy in there was struggling. He couldn't get out. And Roger watched this for a few minutes. Wow, deviation. Better be careful he's not late back. And he couldn't resist it, because when he looked around, there were so many birds flying about that day. This little guy was not going to survive the afternoon. Somebody was going to have him for lunch. So Roger picked him up and put him in a lunch box and took and looked at it. Out a paper clip, and he stretched out to its full length, and then he picked and he poked and he picked and he poked at those silk threads until he loosened them considerably. And the little guy inside had a bit more movement, but he wasn't going anywhere. Oh, it must be about 3:30. Sure enough, it was 3:30. He made his daily phone call to his wife. Oh, I'm fine, dear. How are you? Have you had a good day? Yes, dear, I've had a lovely day. What about you? The same. I've had a lovely day. Okay, I'll see you later. Oh, hold on a minute, sweetheart. I've got something to tell you. Really? Yes. When I was in the park today, I saw a little cocoon sitting on a bush, a chrysalis, tightly wound. And I knew that little guy was struggling and couldn't get out of there, so I brought him back to the office. And no, Roger, please don't tell me. You didn't? Well, yeah, I did, but, bring him home. Oh, I will, dear. Now, Roger. Now? It's only 37 minutes past 3. I can't leave now. You can, Roger, and you will. I'll see you soon. And she hung up. Oh, Roger was stunned. Oh, my. Oh. And he looked across the office to the window of his boss's door. Walked towards the door and he thought. And as the door opened and Roger stuck his head round the door, he said, "Sorry, boss, I've got to go." "You've got to go? Go where?" I said, "Well, I'll explain tomorrow, but I must leave now. Doris is just good." When he got home, he hesitated, as he always did, at the doorstep, and took out his briefcase and took out the lunchbox. Very carefully holding the lunchbox so that it didn't capsize, he took out that last sandwich. And he didn't break it up because he only had one hand. So he just threw it on the grass. Another deviation. And in he went. "I just hope you have not done too much damage, my dear." He went through to the kitchen and sat down. She had her sewing box all ready. "Come on then." He brought out this little guy and put him on the table, and Doris looked at him and she said, "Well, I don't think there's too much damage done. Out of her sewing box, she took a needle and a thread. And she threaded that needle. And as she looked through the eye of that needle, she saw her husband's face. And she had to smile because he was sitting there, terrified. She said, "It's all right, dear. It's going to be all right." Phew. And then she started to stitch. Incredibly tiny, tiny stitches. She wove that cocoon all back together again. Not too tight, just right. And then they sat and watched this little cocoon. "But I don't understand," said Roger. Why couldn't I have, oh, Roger, really? Don't you know anything? For that little guy to break free from that cocoon, he has to struggle, and that struggle has to go on for a long time because he has to build the muscle. But he'll be all right now, of that I'm sure. This was the child they'd never had. They sat and watched this magnificent creature until it was ready for him to bloom. Well, it was only 5 or 6 days later when they came down to breakfast and the cocoon was opened and there was nothing there. The window was opened, but there was a fair distance. They both rushed to the window and looked out. Nothing. Nothing on the lawn below. They looked at each other. But Roger took Doris's hand. Oh boy, this was a deviation and then some, because they went back upstairs. "We're going to celebrate," he said. I don't know what happened when they went back upstairs, but I don't think that's any of our business. But what I do know is a few days later, it must be 12 o'clock, went down to the park to sit on that same bench, take out that lunchbox, open it up, eat the first sandwich. Oh, a bit of movement. Caught his eye. And there, on that same bush, was the most magnificent butterfly you have ever seen. He was purple, green, yellow, blue, lilac, pink, and he waved those fantastic gossamer wings, and he came right up to Roger and flew.
Ah,
And I was trying to bring in the thing about somebody being really beige, and then that made the colourful butterfly all the more so. But you know, it was quite funny because the first thing she said was, "What's beige, Grandma?" I said, "Well, that's a whole other story."
that was a great, like the butterfly, that was a fantastic entrance. Thank you. Well,
I'm curious. Do the females on this site get together because their voices are so phenomenal? They have these little inflections and they just draw you into the, put my head to the camera. Ladies, you're all wonderful. Thank you very much.
whoa. So,
Rhoda, thank you so much. I was observed, engaged in your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
well, I think
That was a sorry.
so. I think we. So can I have big big yeah. So David, David, would you tell us a last story?
With pleasure.
For today. But before you start, I want to mention for those listening elsewhere and coming, if you go to the site and you'll see a little hat on there, and all donations today go to help fund our storytelling festival in Marrakesh, which will run from the 12th to the 20th of February in Marrakesh. We hope to see as many people as there. It's a great sort of post-lockdown post, but hopefully things might by February might be a little easier for everyone. And we've got about 30 tellers turning up in Marrakesh to tell stories, and anyone else, any other tellers that happen to turn up, I'll program it in because I'm boss, so I can do what I like. You know, I want to be a benevolent dictator and and include everyone. And tomorrow we're doing a fundraiser on Zoom, obviously, and Gary Cordingley has got about five or six tellers organized. I think Bubba C is one of them, and yeah, well, inevitably, and this is fantastic. The amazing Bubba C, who's well, you know, our two great supporters on the site have been Bubba C and David Heathfield, who have supported us. But as soon as they found us out, they've just supported us right through. Thank you both. So that's tomorrow at 6. It'll be the middle of the night for you in Australia and Asia. You know, it's like 6 o'clock in the evening. So unless you're an insomniac like Bubba C, you know, watch it on catch up. There's then Tuesday again, always worth catch up. Is our international young tellers, 18 years and younger. Kamaya, please join us on Tuesday. We're missing you. And there's a story, whatever. From as many different countries in the world as possible. On Friday, it's for stories for children. It's all right. He's not taken over the whole site. It just happens to be one of the week that he appears a lot. Is Bubba C and Baden Prince, a fantastic storyteller. So they're telling stories on Friday. But right now we're going to David Heathfield, who will tell us a story to finish this. It's been a fantastic day today. Thank you, Rona, Kamau, Sri, and just fantastic. So, David, have you got a story to finish?
Yes, of course I have. Yeah, love to. And just to reiterate what John was just saying about Choose Up project, and I think the children in Gaza, having had the summer which followed on not long after the atrocities that were happening.
But if I can cut in, it's worse on camera. The other day
Yes,
did
yeah.
her own, did send us a film based around food, and it was a brilliant. She just did a lot.
Who are part of that. So Babasi and John this week, along with Karan Shah, shared stories, and Aunt Suk a while ago, inspired by the tiger, and Jazz Name's even put a story on the project Padlet. Has shared a story about a crow, for example. So if you haven't heard about it yet, I invite you to get involved and join us. I know that Kimaya is planning to put a story up there, and shared a recording from the Feast Story Walk, which I listened to because I hadn't known her other name, Dr. Poom, telling a story before, and it was just such a beautiful story. Oh, it's Kieran, please, please.
It's not Dr. Poom, it's Dr. Wayupa Tossa. There is another Dr. Poom. So I just realized that you put that on my Facebook thing, but I just realized today because I was so distraught that I
Oh, and I thought it was. I thought Dr. West Africa, who joined me on Thursday. The story I shared with him, a story which is inspired by this from the museum here. It's an arrowhead from Kiritimati Island in the middle of the Pacific. But the story isn't from there. The story's from Hinduism. And I learned this story from Sangeeta Sehgal, who's a storyteller from InLife earlier this year to COVID. So you may have heard me tell this story before. And I'll dedicate this to Kimaya. was being prepared. A huge swathe of land was cleared. Elephants were employed to knock down trees to make space for the war. And one elephant pushed against a tall tree, and it toppled and crashed to the ground, and a small nest fell. A sparrow's nest, and the mother sparrow fluttered down, and in her anxiety nest, but found her 4 chicks were alive and safe inside the nest, but not for long. Not for long. She knew the battle was coming, and surely they would be trampled, and what could she do, the poor mother sparrow? And in her anxiety she chirruped and twittered and saw far across the battlefield a chariot. And using all her strength, the mother sparrow flew that vast distance and came to the chariot, which was being driven by none other than Lord Krishna, father of creation. And beside him was Arjuna, the great archer, one of the Pandavas. Well, the bird, she fluttered around the two, and Arjuna tried to brush her away, but now she fluttered and looked into the eyes of Lord. You have the power, save them. This is a trifling matter, said Lord Krishna. There are matters of great concern. A battle is to be fought. I have no time for this. But you can do something, Lord Krishna. You are the father of creation. And she was relentless in her beseeching. And finally, Krishna said, the chariot left the battlefield, and 2 days later, it was time for the battle to commence. And Arjuna and Krishna returned in the chariot, and Arjuna had his arrows and his bow, for he was the greatest of all archers. And Krishna, who had sworn not to take part in the battle and merely observe, was beside him. And there, among the soldiers on horseback, he saw an elephant. It was the very elephant that had toppled the tree. And Krishna said to Arjuna, give me your bow and give me one of your arrows. But Lord Krishna, you have sworn not to take part in the battle. Have you forgotten who I am? Give me your bow and one of your arrows. And when Krishna had them, he placed the arrow and let loose that arrow at such speed it travelled that great distance towards the elephant and struck the bell that hung around the elephant's neck, and the bell fell to the ground. Arjuna, taking back the bow, said, Krishna, if you wanted that elephant dead, you should have asked me. I would not have struck the bell. Blow the conch. Shed, brutality and death. But after 18 days the Pandavas were victorious, and Arjuna one of them. And they left the battlefield, and all was gore and blood. And the next day they returned to do ceremony. Arjuna and Krishna once more had ceremony for all the noble fighters who had lost their lives on both sides. They rode among them, and Krishna said, stop here. You see the bell that lies on the ground, the elephant bell. Pick it up, Arjuna. Why, said Arjuna. What is the importance of a bell when we have much ceremony to do for those who are fallen? Have you forgotten who I am? And Arjuna looked at Krishna and remembered who he was, and got down from the chariot and lifted the bell, and from under the bell flew 5 little birds, 4 chicks that had now fledged and were able to fly, and their mother. And they flew around and around the head of Lord Krishna in praise, in song, who he was. How could he have ever doubted him? He who had done all of this with one single arrow. There, a story of protection.
So beautiful, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a beautiful story.
Thank you so much.
It's good for us. We do it more than once.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
Okay, that's for Kimaya and the people of Nepal and the people in danger around the world.
Whoa. So, David, that was fantastic. You've got such a gentle voice. The stories kind of unfold when you speak. If I try and be gentle, I always feel, it doesn't work. I think the important thing is storytelling is be yourself, and I'm when I'm asked for advice on storytelling, I quote Miles Davis, the jazz trumpeter, and he said, sometimes it takes a long time to play like yourself. And, I just think that's fantastic. That just finding your own, you listen to everybody else, you take all those influences in. And David, you are the king of taking in influences. And and then you come out, you bring those into yourself, and then you take it out yourself. And David, you certainly do that. Thank you. It's been a brilliant carpet around the world.
Thanks, Ali.
Where have we been tonight? We've been to Washington, D.C., we've been to Nepal, we've been to Singapore, we've been to Korea, we've been to Australia, we've been to Scotland, and of course we've been down west in the UK, down in England. So, and of course the whole thing is orchestrated by Ali in Marrakesh. A round of applause for Ali. We never give him a
Sana, Asante Sana, Ali.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we make a note in your diaries. Just business whenever you can. But the next session of this, which David will not be here. We'll miss you, David, but that will be on the 16th of October.
Often I watch the recordings and I feel like I'm here even if I'm not here with you live. I feel I'm here anyway. I'm still joining in. So, I'm here in a way.
Storytellers. Our festival is on for 17 days from
Oh,
October.
we're going to clash with that.
Well, it's three hours every day, and Rona is also involved, I think, as is Ansuk and myself and Suyen and a lot of all the Asian storytellers. So you might, yeah.
Well,
So we won't see you in October.
Would it be worth is on and so many of you are involved? Shall we miss? Because I haven't. Nothing is written in stone. It's so far. Shall we miss October and then 1, 2, 3, 4 do something on the 13th of November? Just going to make a note of that, so remind myself what I've said. So what did I just say? 13th
of November.
13th.
David Heathfield, you're my favorite David Heathfield.
Next.
I could take that really badly.
No, that's a compliment.
How many David Heathfields do you know? I'm also your lead.
Because it's a really important festival.
There's also the Scottish Storytelling Festival, isn't there, as well, in end of October, I think. Well, I know because I'm performing there.
Oh, why aren't I? Woe is me. No. Right. Anyway, listen to that, John. Right.
You're at every other festival, John.
If I can just tell you a little bit about Feast, they're going to be about 160 something performers, 27 languages. Who are performing on the 31st of October, because we are an institutional member of Feast. The whole package is ridiculously affordable. I can't remember the rates now, but it's really nothing. I think, I don't know, do you remember, Ansuk? Is it $50 or something ridiculous? I can't remember. With Singapore, nothing for 17 days of 3 hours storytelling each. Yeah. So, and there's storytellers from Japan, storytellers from Korea. It's amazing. It's going to be an amazing thing to get so many people. I forget how many countries, across the Asian diaspora. Quite amazing.
And if you can encourage some of those to come to us on the 13th of November, so we can broaden our, our scope. That's how many years has Feast been running?
Actually, they started in 2017. And what they've done it's
Phenomenal.
incredible what they've achieved in just a short time.
5
They have
years, fantastic.
webinars. They have webinars every month.
Webinars are fantastic.
The
I did
webinars-
one.
Yeah, they were very, very good.
Thank you.
I'm in my pajamas every time there's a webinar, so everybody knows I have my video off. But I stay up for it. Its FACE, the Federation of Asian, it was all about food, Asian folk tales and food. The second one was about royals, wise or otherwise. And then the third one, what was the third one that I was not involved in? I forget the title. Oh dear, this is terrible. Is this the third one? Splish, splash, splosh. It's water stories.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one more. See, my memory's gone. So this is the fourth one coming up. Yeah.
I have to say that feast was one of the things. Oh, somebody. Sorry. I have to say that feast was one of the things that kept me going. It was just incredible. And Roger and Sheila have always been sort of, like they're poking and prodding, come on, get on with it kind of thing,
Yeah,
So
and that's
yeah.
yeah, and Rona and I have been mentoring upcoming new storytellers new to the field, and they're performing as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so yeah, so it's been a lovely journey. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
October
It's been going 2 years, so there's a
That's pretty good too.
Very good, yeah.
so and we've had probably over 300 tellers on at that time, and thousands. I mean, in the archive, there's thousands of hours of stories, but it will carry on. It'll carry on, but maybe, well, at the moment I'm doing three shows a week, but I think the one that I'll continue is probably this monthly one or bi-monthly, whatever it turns out, and the young tellers, because that's for me, that Tuesday evening of young tellers is the most important to get that. But I think I think what's happened is Zoom has allowed us to sort of work together internationally. So I want to keep those international nights going, or sessions going, even if it's monthly. And I think we'll continue with the young tellers weekly. This is long term. Nothing is predictable long term, but but I think after February, something will happen. And we're starting out. We're getting a physical cafe. It's being nearly built now. Is in Marrakesh, and
John.
I've seen pictures of it. It's coming on, but in that that's going to be hybrid. It's going to be tellers there, and of course there'll be Moroccan tellers there as well. But they will be beaming out to the world. We'll have a big screen in there so people can come in. I'll probably do an Asian and Australian morning or something, and so this can be part of the festival. I haven't programmed it yet, but that's going to continue. That's going to be a permanent thing. The storytelling centre. So lots of exciting I'll be in. I shall certainly have a look at the Feast website, and we'll put it up on. I'll put it up on my Facebook site and share it round. David, I'm sure, will do the same thing. So, but for now, if I don't see you at Feast, see you in 2 months' time. Fantastic. And Rhoda, come join us often.
Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
please, yes, please.
My
Fiona.
dad
That
was
just so
born on
wonderful.
Halloween. I asked him once whether he was a trick or
Rona,
treat
your
baby.
great story. And bye, Kiran. See you next month.
Bye, I'm so
Bye, Babasi. Bye, David.
That means my friend.
Bye, Hansu. Bye,
Yes,
bye,
it's
Babasi.
long
Bye.
time
Bye-bye,
to
my
see
friends.
you. David, your another session workshop start?
Yeah, I've actually got I've got a course starting on Monday for it. And that's for Italian teachers, and then I've got 2 courses starting the week after that for everybody. So it's really busy October coming ahead. Yeah, really busy. But thank you for the
Bye,
wishes.
Babasi. Bye,